Hello, everybody, and welcome to season 2, episode 3 of Ignite podcast. I'm very excited because today I'll be delving into the theme for the season. And the theme for the season is living fearlessly. Yeah? This has been on my heart for a while. If there's anyone who knows me, they probably know that I don't want to say cowardly, but I'm very precautious. I think the word is precautious. I don't make a move until 10 steps ahead. I'm sure how it's going to go. So looking at living fearlessly was very scary for me. And I think that part of doing episode 1 and 2 and talking about living single and fearlessly I had to really push myself and really put myself in a position of, I made the promise that 2025 would be a year of living fearlessly. Now, generally, when people think about living fearlessly, the definition they use is to be free, to live free from fear, or to have no fear. Now, as I have gotten older, I've come to realize that living fearlessly does not necessarily mean diving or rushing into the fire or being that kind of person who is reckless and just does anything at any time. I have come to realize that living fearlessly is not as much as it's about being brave. Living fearlessly is about a bit more. At least that is the context of my life. I've come to realize that to live fearlessly for me, and I hope for the people who are listening, means that you have to surrender. Now, most people do not connect the word surrender with living fearlessly because it doesn't make sense. Most people look at surrender as something maybe lowly or giving up. But I've come to realize that surrender has everything to do with living fearlessly. Now, again, I like words. And what does surrender mean? To give oneself over to something such as influence, or to give oneself up into the power of another. And I've just remembered I did not introduce myself. I'm Dr. Shali Genga. I'm so sorry. I'm Dr. Shali Genga. And let me repeat what's the meaning of surrender. To give oneself over to something such as influence, to give oneself up into the power of another. Now, that doesn't look like living fearlessly if you catch my drift. It's for some people, I think sometimes they think of surrender, they think that you're kneeling down somewhere, like you're giving. And as we've read the meaning, it means like to give your power to someone else. Now, for me, who is a Christian, what I've come to learn that surrender is not just about maybe not showing up or just giving up on life, but there's a more powerful connotation when it comes to surrender, and that is surrendering to God, to a higher power, to someone who you believe is bigger and greater than you, and who knows more than you know, and someone who you trust and believe that they want good for you. It's not just about letting go and just saying life will happen the way life will happen. It's also holding on to the belief that when you surrender, that everything that happens to you will be good for you. Now, what does it mean to surrender? We all have scripts that we've written about the way our life should happen, the careers that we should have, the families that we'd like to have, the kind of people that we'd like to be. And a lot of times these scripts that we write are influenced by society. It's influenced by social media. It's influenced by what our parents said or what we have seen growing up. And a lot of times the script of how things should be, and maybe our control in trying to maneuver our lives to go according to the script, can create a lot of pressure, at least for me. And even as I talk about the idea of surrender, it has not been an easy journey for me. And it's even a journey that I am learning at the tender age of 41, like how to surrender, how to let go. Because my natural inclination is to want to hold on to things and to try and steer it in the according to my script of how I think that things should go. And I remember I had to have a conversation with myself and ask myself, if I believe that my life should go a certain way, is this a given? Is this set in stone? And if it doesn't go that way, does it mean that my life has fallen apart? Or is it possible that I can release these ideas I have about my life, whether it is my career, whether it is about my friendships or whatever, and give it to God, and it will end up being a good thing for me? And at the beginning of this year, I have had to have burial sites for a lot of scripts that I have written for my life, because I have come to the realization that in order to live a fearless life in 2025, that there are things that must die. And a lot of those things are the scripts that we have for our lives. And number two is the control that we try and put in our lives to try and push our lives to go according to those scripts. Now, the barrier or the challenge of having these scripts is that you could be in a season where there is a door that is there for you, or something that is good for you in that season. And if you are not able to see it, then you will not be able to receive it. If you cannot see the value or see it for what it is, then you might not be able to receive it, because you'll be like, it doesn't look like my script. And you'll be busy trying to chase something that maybe is not yours, because you're trying to live fearlessly in the way that you assume living fearlessly is. And when I think of maybe a story in the Bible that might relate to this situation, is the story of Naaman, for example. The Syrian general who had leprosy, he almost didn't get healed because he didn't like the way that the miracle was supposed to happen. Like, this dude, seriously, he was offended with how he felt. The prophet handled him. He was offended by what he was told that he needed to do, what he needed to do to heal. He almost fought to surrender his idea of how he thought his healing should happen, or how he thought that he needs to be treated in order for the healing to happen. And it was only because of the servant girl who told him, "What will it cost you if you just go and dip yourself in the Jordan River 7 times? What will it cost you to just do what you've been told? What will it cost you to surrender your script for your life? What will it cost you to surrender?" And he eventually got healed, but it put like a little fear in my heart. Is it possible that maybe there are certain situations in my life that, or certain things that I haven't been able to accomplish, or certain paths that I haven't taken because I was not able to surrender, because I was so focused on this script, which is not even constant; it's constantly changing. In fact, the main thing about this script is that it's constantly changing, constantly being influenced by the things that I see and the things that I hear. And one of the challenges for me this year is what I've been trying to do is to, if I have a hope or something that I want to see in 2025, I have to go back and ask myself, where does this script come from? And maybe praying about it and finding out what is God saying about it, and surrendering. In the last few months of 2024, I have been put in situations where I literally have had to surrender. And it was the hardest thing that I have ever had to do. Situations where your own human effort it means absolutely nothing. There's nothing it can do. You can do it for the sake of having something to do, but the results, it cannot influence the result that you're hoping for. And that is like the most humbling situation that you can find yourself. But I'm also finding that it's not only humbling, but it is the most freeing place that you can find yourself. Surrender is the best thing that you can do. And as we are going into a new year, I'm so excited to see what does surrender look like? Not just in my personal life, but in my career. For the first time, I feel like I've been carrying my career on my shoulders for my whole life, just trying to be strategic, trying to network here and trying to do this, And of course, there are results, but it comes at such a heavy cost on the soul. It comes at a heavy cost on rest. What does it mean to show up and to trust that God is for you and God has a good plan for your life? What does your life look like? And I'm very curious to see how that is going to be. Of course, human nature is to want to go back to the old habits of holding on and trying to control things. And also also to be surrender requires that you're open to life not going the way you want, and being open to investigate if life doesn't go your way. Is it a good thing? Can it be a good thing? And the best thing about surrender is that you're able to have a lens to see things for what they really are. If you don't surrender, then you can be looking at something as bad when something is actually good for you. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And being humbled is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes humbling is when life humbles you in many ways, it's only when you can go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I surrender. I will show up and I will trust the process, and I will leave it to someone who has a bigger understanding. And again, let me just note that surrender does not mean not showing up. It does not mean now you'll just sleep at home and not do your work or anything and just hope that things work out. Surrender means that you show up, you do your part, and then you give the result and everything that you're hoping for, and you trust it and put it in God's hands. That at least is what I've come to see is living fearlessly. And also looking at situations that may not necessarily represent how you think they should look like, and being able to jump into them, like trusting God. And living fearlessly does not mean living in denial. A lot of people think that if I am supposed to live fearlessly, it means that I am supposed to pretend that things are not the way that they are, that I'm just supposed to dive into things immediately without understanding the context. And one of my most favorite verses that deal with surrender is Romans 4:18 verse 22, which says, "Against all hope, Abraham believed, and so became the father of many nations, just as it had said to him, so shall your offsprings be." Without weakening in his faith, he faced the fact that his body was as good as dead. I love the fact that he faced the fact that his body was as good as dead, since he was about 100 years old, and that Sarah's womb was also dead. He also noted that Sarah's womb was dead. He did not pretend that it was not dead. Yet he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God, but was strengthened in his faith and gave glory to God, being fully persuaded that God had power to do what he had promised. I love this verse because it's very practical, in the sense that you note that, yes, my life looks like this and looks like this, but I'm still going to believe. I'm still going to be fearless. I'm still going to surrender so that I can be fearless. I'm going to dare to dream. I'm going to dare to believe even when things don't look, in fact, not things don't look like you hope them to be, but things sometimes look opposite of what you hope them to be. That to me is living fearlessly. And I hope that I will be able to bring guests in this season who have faced certain situations where their lives are not necessarily what they expected to be, but they have been able to overcome and they have been able to live fearlessly. They've learned the art of surrender. There is power in surrender. You cannot live fearlessly if you do not surrender. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that whatever we've discussed today has blessed you.